Alex Browning is among a group of high school students readying themselves for a trip to Europe. When he suddenly has a premonition their airplane will crash, he screams to warn the others, but instead he is thrown off of the plane along others, but the plane actually crashes after they get off. Weeks later one of the survivors mysteriously dies, and Alex realizes that things just got more complex. Alex is boarding a plane to France on a school trip, when he suddenly gets a premonition that the plane will explode. Shortly after Alex, a group of students, and his teacher are thrown off the plane. To their horror, the plane does in fact explode. Alex must now work out Death's plan, as each of the survivors falls victim. Whilst trying to prevent the next death, Alex must also dodge the FBI, who believe that he caused the explosion. Death doesn't take no for an answer. Death is coming. And Alex Browning is cursed with knowing when, how, and where the Grim Reaper will take his next victim to the final destination. After boarding a plane to Europe with his fellow French club members, high school student Alex Browning, Devon Sawa, has a premonition of the aircraft exploding moments after takeoff, killing everyone on board. Alex panics, insisting that everyone get off the plane. In the melee that ensues, 7 people, including Alex, are forced to disembark, saving them from a fiery death when the plane explodes as Alex foresaw. But as, one by one, each of these 7 who cheated fate meets an untimely end, Alex and his remaining friends band together to try change destiny and outwit the untamable forces of death. Alex Browning is among a group of high school students readying themselves for a trip to Europe. When he suddenly has a premonition their airplane will crash, he screams to warn the others, but instead he is thrown off of the plane along others, but the plane actually crashes after they get off. Weeks later one of the survivors mysteriously dies, and Alex realizes that things just got more complex. When a boy starts having a premonition of Flight 180 crashing, he tells his friends before they board that it is a bad idea and not to take the flight. His friends listen to him and don't go, and soon after the plane crashes. Now since his friends didn't get on the plane one by one, they are getting killed in mysterious ways. Alex Browning is a teenager who has the power of seeing the future. He and 40 of his classmates are going to Paris on a school trip. Just before the plane takes off, Alex has a premonition of the plane exploding, killing everyone. He awakens and screams to everyone that the plane will explode. The guards take him off the plane and onto the airport. During the commotion, teacher, Valerie Luton, and students, Billy Hitchcock, Clear Rivers, Terry Chaney, Carter Horton and Todd Wagner get off as well. Soon after, the plane explodes. The survivors are shocked to find Alex's premonition has come true. Days later, Todd slips in his bathroom, and falls on a clothesline in his shower. His velocity causes the rope to wrap around his neck, and strangles him to death. After his body is discovered, everyone deems it a suicide. Alex thinks that death is after them, since they survived the plane explosion. He figures out that they are meant to die in the order that they died on the plane. He calls Clear and they go to a cafe and talk about Alex's theory. While at the cafe, all the survivors reunite. But Carter and Alex start arguing. Terry, Carter's girlfriend, is enraged at Carter still holding a grudge against Alex. She walks off, only to be hit by a bus. Next on the list is Miss Luton. She has a series of household accidents that ultimately leads to her computer blowing up in her face, a knife impaling her and her house exploding. The 4 remaining take off in a car only to have it stall on the railroad tracks. They all get out except the Carter, who spots an oncoming train. The others convince him to get out. He decides to get out. With Alex's help, Carter's death has been intervened. But Billy is decapitated by a piece of thin metal from the car wreckage. Alex figures out that if someone intervenes and prevents the people next in line to die, death will put that person at the end of the list. Next in line is his girlfriend, Clear Rivers. She is at home when lightning hits a tree, causing a chain of events to occur that ultimately find her in her car with a power line on top of it. Alex swoops in again and saves her, cheating death once again. 6 months later, thinking they have finally cheated death for good, the three remaining fly to Paris. At a cafe, Alex sees omens around him, and thinks that death is still after them. Walking away, Alex is about to be hit by a bus, without realizing it. Clear has a vision and shouts to Alex and saves him. However, the bus hits a traffic pole, which sends it flying in the air, finally hitting a electrical sign, which says Café La Mero 81 on top of the cafe. The sign comes crashing down, about to hit Alex. Carter comes and saves him. Thinking death has been defeated, Carter asks Alex, "Who's next?" Then the sign comes back down, this time backwards saying, 18-0 and hits Carter. This leaves Clear and Alex the remaining survivors from the first film. It is revealed afterwards that Alex was struck in the head by a falling brick. Clear, now powerless, sends herself into a mental asylum. Alex Browning is going on a high school graduation trip to Paris with his fellow students. Before Voliere Flight 180's takeoff, Alex has a premonition that the flight will explode in mid-air, killing everybody on board. Alex then finds himself back on the plane while it is still boarding. When events from his vision begin to repeat themselves in reality, he panics and attempts to stop the flight. Before takeoff, the resulting commotion leads to a handful of passengers being left behind, including Alex, orphan Clear Rivers, Alex's best friend Todd Wagner, teacher Valerie Luton, Alex's rival Carter Horton, Carter's girlfriend Terry Cheney, and student Billy Hitchcock. After they are all forced off the plane, none of the passengers believes that Alex's vision will come true until the airliner takes off and explodes in mid-air, killing everyone who was on board. The survivors are devastated, and 2 FBI agents interview the people taken off the plane, and are particularly interested with Alex's vision. 1 month later, Todd is strangled in his shower, and his death is deemed a suicide. When Alex and Clear go to see his body, mysterious mortician William Bloodworth, Tony Todd, tells them that death is intervening to kill everyone who was meant to die on the plane. Terry falls victim the next day when she is hit by a bus. After watching a news report detailing the cause of the explosion of Flight 180, Alex comes to the conclusion that death is killing the survivors in the order they would have died in the explosion on the plane. He determines that Ms. Luton is next on death's list. He rushes to her house but arrives too late to save her from being impaled in the chest with a knife. Alex contacts the remaining survivors, Billy, Clear, and Carter, to tell them what he thinks is happening. As they are riding in Carter's car, Alex has another vision of a train and a seatbelt ripping. Frustrated with not having control over his death, Carter attempts to drive head-on into a fuel tanker, but the car seemingly by itself turns and avoids the collision. Carter then stops his car on a train crossing, wanting to kill himself before death does. At the last moment, however, he changes his mind but cannot exit his car as his seatbelt is jammed. Alex rushes to help Carter from his car, and as he foresaw, Carter's seatbelt rips and he is freed a second before the train destroys the car, thus cheating death. However, Billy is gruesomely decapitated from the jaw up by a piece of the car's shrapnel thrown by the train wheels. Alex believes that because he intervened in Carter's death he has saved Carter. Death skipped Carter and went on to Billy. Later he remembers in his original premonition he was asked to switch seats on the plane, and realizes that Clear is actually the next to die. Alex rushes to Clear's house to find her trapped in her car surrounded by fire. She is unable to escape her vehicle, which is about to explode, as a damaged electrical cable is precariously flipping around outside. Alex saves her by picking up the live cable, however he is electrocuted. Clear and the police rush to Alex's aid as the screen fades to white. 6 months later, Alex, Clear, and Carter are in Paris talking about their experience about Flight 180, and celebrating that it is all over and they are finally in Paris. Shortly thereafter, a freak incident involving a bus causes a giant neon sign to swing off a hinge down towards Alex. Carter manages to intervene and pushes Alex to the ground, with the sign swinging down past the two of them. Carter then stands up and turns to Alex, who is still on the ground. Carter asks Alex who is next on death's list. The sign then swings back down on its momentum towards where Carter is standing, and a loud whack is heard, leaving Alex and Clear as the last two survivors of Flight 180.